So our last showcase speaker started his first business aged just 12 years old. Today, standing here at 25, he has more business experience than most people twice his age. He's worked with hundreds of businesses in the UK and across the world, helping to get better results from their marketing. Today he's here to show us exactly what we can learn about business from a 12-year-old. Please welcome Nathan Littleton.
Well, this is awkward, isn't it? And do you know what that laughter is? That laughter's the sign of relief. It's a strange part of human psychology that in certain circumstances, silence makes us uncomfortable. And when it makes us uncomfortable, we feel compelled to fill it. I've had an awkward silence before. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I'm not 12 years old, but I was once. And at 12 years old, I went into one of my very first sales meetings. I was sat opposite a man named Richard. Richard owned a social club. And in this meeting, I told him everything about how a wonderful new website would be for his business. I told him how it would bring him new clients. And then I told him the price. Following that, I sat in complete, awkward silence. You see, at 12 years old, I knew that I had what it takes to be an entrepreneur. My biggest hobby at the time was building websites, and the websites that I made were aimed at 12-year-olds. They had games, jokes, funny stories, pretty much anything that a 12-year-old would like. It didn't take me long to realise that people were doing what I was doing for businesses, and they were earning money from it. I thought, well, I could do that. I had the skills to do it. I taught myself those. I didn't need any money to get started because, thanks to my parents, I already had a computer. I think I might have been a little bit naive about what was really needed to build a business out of what I was doing, but I went out there and I did it anyway. I was hungry for knowledge, and a few years later, I went to a sales seminar, and the speaker was talking through different closing techniques and ways of overcoming objections. I was absolutely hooked. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, what else can you teach me? What other tips can you give me about how to improve my sales technique? And he looked at me and he said, kid, when you've told them everything you can do, tell them the price. And once you've told them the price, just shut up. He who speaks first loses. Now you're probably thinking the same as me. I don't want my clients and prospects to lose. But his intentions were good. It's a sales tactic. It's designed to demonstrate the value that you can bring without overselling what you can do. I'd actually done that all those years earlier. Sat in the meeting opposite Richard. I told him everything I could do. I gave him the price, and then I sat in silence. But I didn't do it as a sales tactic. I just didn't have the foggiest idea what I was going to say next. Pretty awkward at times. The silence really wasn't necessary to get him to buy. And the truth is, business is often far simpler than we make it. We have a habit of overcomplicating things. When it comes to marketing, do we really need to know the intricacies of Facebook ads and LinkedIn before we understand that if we know who needs our services and where we can find them in the highest concentration, that will do? We can take care of the rest later. When it comes to sales, do we need to know the advanced closing techniques and how to overcome objections before we understand that if we demonstrate enough value to the right person, they'll buy? Business is far simpler than we think. And I know what you're thinking, Michael. I know what you're thinking, Ailey. I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, well, at 12 years old, you didn't have any risk. It was far easier for you. You had the time to plan this stuff out. I have a family to feed. I have a mortgage to pay. I have a very expensive golf club membership. And in some ways, you're right. But I also think that demonstrates how the little things that we tell ourselves can hold back our achievements. I'd had my business for a few months. and I saw a car drive by. Mike Moses, magician. Can we take a second just to appreciate how wonderful that alliteration is? Now, I fancied my chances at cold calling, and it had his number underneath, so quickly I noted it down. Luckily for me, my voice broke when I was about 11. That's very useful for a 12-year-old making business phone calls. I fancied my chances at cold calling, and my very first cold call got the sale there and then. He said to me, "That's fantastic. I've got all of my marketing materials and a copy of my logo on a floppy disk. Why don't you come over?" Anyone remember floppy disk? Even I do. Imagine that. He said, "I've got all my marketing materials and a copy of my logo on a floppy disk. Why don't you pop round and pick it up?" I said, "Fantastic." That very same day, my mum drove me to go and pick up this floppy disk. She said to me, "Son, I'll wait here in the car. If you're uncomfortable with anything at all, I'll be here." Great. So I walked up to the door and I knocked. And there he was. There he was. There he was, looking down at me, wondering what on earth a small boy was doing on his doorstep. I was an entrepreneur. But he didn't know that. This was another one of those awkward silences. I can honestly tell you, with the number of experiences that I've had of not knowing what to say, it's amazing that I'm a speaker. But all these thoughts were running through my head. He's going to think I'm too young. He's going to wonder, how on earth does this kid run a business? He's not going to want to buy from me. He's not going to think that I can do a good job. Now, I said the first thing that came to mind, which was probably the worst thing I could have said. I said, "Hi, I'm ever so sorry. Nathan couldn't make it. I'm his little brother." My limiting belief was that he would think I was too young. He would think I was too young to do a good job, and I let that control my actions. The truth is, I knew I could do a good job. But even when people were buying from me, I'd convinced myself that that was just a one-off. You know, it's after a few hundred one-offs that you start thinking they might not be one-offs. But the things that we say to ourselves can hold back our achievements. This could be the big things, big life ambitions, dreams and goals about what you want to do in your career. Now, if you ask a 12-year-old what they want to be when they grow up, they'll tell you with crystal clear clarity, "I want to be a policeman, I want to be an astronaut or a mountain climber." But somewhere along the line, those dreams and ambitions, they get lost. They get replaced with something that's more achievable, more realistic. And that happens because of what other people tell them and because of what they tell themselves. Kids have a really wonderful way of treating things with common sense, and that's another thing that gets lost along the way too. The things we say can hold ourselves back, and business really is far, far simpler than we make it. Today I've been able to share with you just 2 of the 12 big business lessons that I learned from running a business in my teens. I didn't have any business experience. I didn't even have any life experience. But what I did have was a willingness to learn and to grow, and a determination to really succeed at what I considered to be the best job in the world, running my own business. And the question I have for you today is, are you living the best job in the world, or are you getting in your own way? Thank you.